Dating is a process.
Yeah, and not a result.
Exactly.
All right, okay, so what in the world do we mean by that? What we mean by that is a lot of the time when we're in dating, when we're feeling that frustration, when you might have been actually going out on a date every weekend for I don't know how long, and you're going to those dates, and as I said, you're just not feeling the spark, you can start to really hunker down and get super focused on the outcome that you want. Now, you know you are guilty of this. I mean this in a really nice way. If you are saying to yourself stuff like, I just need to get a boyfriend by Christmas, or I just want to have a relationship right now. And I get how you get there, because you're determined, you know what you want, you're done with messing around, and you want to find that commitment. And that in itself is a beautiful and it's an amazing thing. However, when you get stuck in this spiral of really overly focusing on the outcome, we forget to enjoy the journey. And dare I say it, enjoy the journey.
Enjoy cliche,
but it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And what can happen then is if you're not enjoying the journey, if you're really dragging your feet to those dates, you can quickly find that you're going to get demotivated and you're going to start to think, oh gosh, I can't really be bothered to go out. Actually, you know, my sofa and watching Netflix sounds quite appetizing to me at the moment. And at that point, you might start emotionally checking out of the dating process altogether. And we don't want that, because what have we established? We need you to be in it to win it. We need you to stay open to meeting people to get that committed relationship that you want. So in order to do that, we're going to now start to focus on how do you get away from that idea of being kind of holding on too tight, I guess, holding on too tight to what you think you want, and instead going about dating in a way that's so much more fun and so much more enjoyable. So I would say, if you are self-diagnosed, if you are going on to loads of dates and you're thinking, I'm not feeling any spark, this is a spark-free zone, or maybe you're even the recipient of lots of, you were a really nice person, but I'm sorry, you know the one, don't you? I just didn't feel the spark messages.
Let's be friends.
Oh, if that is happening to you right now and you're in that spark-free situation, how can we make your dates more enjoyable for you again? Okay, I want you to remember to ask yourself about all those dating scenarios 2 questions. Question number 1 is, how do I have fun with this person? Question number 2 is, how can I be curious about this person? So we're going to chunk this down to what this means for you in terms of action steps, because as dating coaches, we are all about you taking action steps and getting practical on this and taking personal responsibility. So when it comes to how do I have fun with this person, I think a lot of the time people approach dating a little bit like a chore.
Definitely. And how do we feel when we have to do a chore?
Well, we don't
want to do it.
You
right?
leave the dishes in the sink. You can start to, so if you're getting that feeling with dating at the moment, like you're starting to push it to the bottom of your priority list, because you know what, you're probably also really enjoying other areas of your life, like your work or your friends. And if this dating thing is just like, whoa, I'm just not really getting anything from it, of course you can start to squeeze it out of your schedule. So instead, I think, instead of going on that date that you think the other person might like, I would consider building dates that you are going to enjoy and have fun on anyway, even if you don't feel that spark.
Yeah, I think a great question you can ask yourself is, what would I like my dating life to look like? And not only what would I like it to look like, but how would I like it to feel as well? Because then you get to start to articulate and define what that is, so then you can go out and live it, versus doing what you think you're meant to do.
Right, and that goes back to also having curiosity about the person.
Yeah.
Because often if you're walking into a date and you're like going, yes, love of my life, or in 99.9% of cases, no, I just know I don't fancy them. Again, demotivation is going to hit you hard. So instead, and also we will be getting to this a little bit later, you might also be not approaching dating in quite the right way to find those amazing committed connections that easily. So to have curiosity for a person, you can start to think about stuff like, you know, even if you're not sure you're going to have that immediate spark, could I learn something from this person? Could there be a friendship there?
Yeah.
Could I get a good bar recommendation? So start to come from that space of fun and start to come from that space of curiosity.
Yeah, we've got a question from Sarah, where she's asking, what happens if you fall in love too fast and wear your heart on your sleeve?
So I don't think you're going to be alone there, Sarah, in terms of being a heart on sleeve wearer. And first of all, I want to say, in defense of all people who, if you feel like you kind of jump in a bit quick and occasionally get burned because you really are open to meeting someone, that's actually a really lovely quality, to have that openness, that trust. So we're not saying that that in and of itself is a bad thing. Instead, we want to preserve those qualities, because actually, if you can retain them and use them with someone who can reciprocate on the same level, your relationship is going to be supercharged. So how do you get there? We are going to be looking at slowing the whole process down. That's because sometimes when we wear our heart on our sleeves, it's because we kind of come to a conclusion quite early on about what a person is about. We sort of like idealize them.
Yeah,
self-project. Put them on a bit of a pedestal before we do the due diligence of actually getting to know them. So instead, you want to be looking out for people who give you the same level of time, the same level of commitment, same level of consistency. Now, we're also going to be talking about how to do this a little bit later on.
Yeah, and that's going to tie in as well with you having your own healthy and loving boundaries as well, because what can happen with someone who has the tendency to be very open and honest and giving very early on, which are all great qualities, what can then happen is, because there are no boundaries in place for yourself, it ends up feeling like you feel that you're drained or you're being taken for granted. But we have to remember as well, how we get treated, we actually teach people how to treat us. And if we don't have boundaries in place as well, then we're not really giving other people the instructions of how we want them to operate around us.
Right. And we're all about actually these long-term relationships. They are about communication. They're about someone being willing and about being understanding. So, did you write down that list of qualities or things you're looking out for in a person? Because I want to spend a little bit of time looking at that list, because I think sometimes what we think we might want on paper can actually really differ from what might really work for you in real life. So if you're constantly finding that there isn't quite that connection, or you're not finding someone that you click with that much, a huge part of this could be shifting on what criteria you're looking for. Now, I am not saying, by the way, just to qualify this, lower your standards. No one likes that. No, and also if you've been told you're just being a bit picky, wow, that could be really aggravating. So instead, I want you to think about this, instead of, it's not about lowering your standards, it's about thinking, what is really important to me right now? What have I learned from this wealth of relationship experience? So, okay, look at your list. I want you to start to think about dividing up your list now into what are must-haves and what are nice-to-haves. To give you an example of this, I'm going to ask Ashley here a little bit about what his must-haves are and a bit about what his nice-to-haves are.
Okay.
So what will be on your must-to-have list?
So, yeah, when I was single, what I had on my list in terms of must was a beautiful mindset. To me, that involves an attitude that is more optimistic and empowered than pessimistic and negative, for example. As well, someone who can be quite playful, goofy. I really love, that's just a quality that I just really admire, because, you know, that helps you not take life too seriously. Also someone as well who can be quite giving, because I regard myself as quite giving as well, so it's important that there's a nice balance there. Those are kind of like musts that I feel like need to be there.
You've got some good clear must-haves. What about...
As well as communication as well.
Okay.
I'll add that in there.
You can tell that Ash is a bit of a dating coach here. He has pre-prepared this answer. What would be on your nice-to-have list?
The nice-to-haves. Okay, so for example, I'm a massive fan of, on a physical attribute, curly woolly hair. Everyone who knows me, they know that's a thing that usually catches my attention, but that's not necessarily a must. If you don't have that, that doesn't mean for me that's it. You're scratched out, you're cut out.
Okay, so when we're looking at that list, if you've written something down which is on the nature of height, body shape, career, what's some other ones?
It might be in terms of maybe certain TV programs that you're into, or music types.
Yeah, they have to like the same music.
You have to like the same music, or like the exact same hobbies.
I would say that whilst those are nice to haves, that wouldn't be on my must list.
And those aren't necessarily things that help build a really healthy,
great relationship. Exactly. So I want you to now spend a bit of time, maybe not now actually, maybe give it to the end of this session. I want you to redivide that list into your must-haves and your nice-to-haves, because we're going to be revisiting this a little bit later.
How would that tie in with trying to find the right person?
Well, this is interesting you bring this up because the next thing I want to talk to you about is how, if you do wear your heart on your sleeve, how you can manage your expectations and learn to pace that relationship so you can discover the person that you really connect with. Because I have to say, I get one too many emails about this on a daily basis, which is sort of, it's always the same story. It's, I met someone, really amazing few dates, they said lots of things to me, I thought that was it, and now they're gone, or they're not really showing up for me in the same way. And that can be that's a really disorientating, tough process to go through. So what we really want to do is, again, move you away from that idea of immediately like, yes, this is the right person for me, jumping to that really strong conclusion, and instead get you into this idea of pacing the relationship. So by pacing the relationship, I mean that you want to do due diligence to see how that person shows up for you, not after 3 days, not after 3 dates, not after 3 weeks, or even 3 months, because those really good long-term qualities, whether it's playfulness or consistency or good communicator, by their nature, a lot of the time you don't get that on the first date, where both people are a bit nervous and might not be showing their true and best and most detailed selves. So because of that, I would suggest, first of all, on that first date, suspend judgment and instead start reminding yourself and using some key phrases to bring yourself back into the moment. So instead of thinking, again, going back to the, is this the one? Or is this definitely not the one? Don't ask yourself big questions like that early on in the dating process.
And usually when you're asking that question, it's your perception of who is the perfect person or who is the right person. Because really, in reality, there is no perfect person or right person. It's our idea about that person.
Exactly.
So we've always got to remember that as well.
So we want to stay focused on the present moment and also giving people enough time and opportunity. Some really good phrases. If you are the sort of person that does tend to rush in and wear your heart on your sleeve, good ones to manage your expectations and keep your feet on the ground would be saying stuff like, I'm just going to turn up and see what happens. I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm just going to allow this, see where this goes. And that's okay. And I think sometimes we want to rush to a conclusion about another person because it feels more comfortable, because then we're certain, and actually when we're in the unknown and you don't really know where this is going to evolve or if this person sees you in the same way, that can feel a bit, makes you feel a little bit anxious. But instead of racing towards the conclusion, instead you're going to find you make so much better decisions about who to prioritize and give your valuable, precious time to within the dating process when you slow things down.
So a question from Anne then is, how can you look for signs of interest? How can you look for signs that kind of tie into what we've just been talking about there?
Okay, so a lot of the time, we want to look for signs because we want that answer and that information really quickly. So I'm going to be annoying here and give you some signs that actually don't show up immediately and take a bit of time for you to work out. So those signs, I think my favourite, can I tell you my favourite sign?
Yeah, go for
My
it.
favourite sign is consistency. And how do we work out consistency? Well, we have to take a back seat sometimes and see if someone is going to show up for you at the same way from week 1 to week 26. Sometimes I think the other person, people can rush and push relationships a lot of the time because they're a bit nervous as well and they want you to like them and everyone wants to be certain. But slow it down, see who is consistent, also show who is a great communicator with you, who is investing time in you. Time is a brilliant one. It's such a good, honest signal as well. You can't fake it. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be a bit harsh here. But if someone is saying to you, I'd love to see you, but unfortunately, I've got this big project on at work. I'm traveling a lot at the moment. I am waiting for the moon to be in Aries. My cat needs to be good. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You've got to listen to that and you've got to think, okay, it isn't actually about the excuse here. Really, it's about me seeing that this person, it doesn't either they don't have the emotional and mental space in their life to have the kind of relationship I want, or they're not giving that to me. And remember, you should be continuing to invest your time in people that are reciprocating on the same level.
100%. It's got to be mutual because you want it to be a win-win experience for both of you. It's not where one is over-investing and the other one is under-investing. Yeah.
Exactly.
So kind of let's go over what we've just been talking about in this chapter, because again, dating is a process. It's not about the result and being focused on that.
Completely.
Right.
So, and I just to emphasise again, it's kind of natural to be focused on that result. To get away from that, some really good things you can do. If your dates are a bit lackluster at the moment, ask yourself, how can I have fun with this person? Or how can I be curious about this person? Secondly, if you're looking at your list of qualities, that list, let's divide them up into the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. And if someone has some of the must-haves, or they show that willingness, but their hair isn't the colour that you imagined, that's okay. Be prepared to be a bit flexible and build your relationships. And if you're constantly getting carried away, keep 2 feet on the ground and remind yourself, just say things to yourself like, you know what, I'm just going to take this day by day. I'm not going to read into whether that person messaged me back, they didn't message me back. I'm not going to take meaning from that. I'm not going to start to assume they don't like me or it's all over.
Yeah.
I'm just going to cool it off and take it day by day.
And try to see every date or every moment that you have on your journey as part of your journey, as part of the process. It is all part of the picture and the painting. It's not just getting to the destination and that's it, because even once you are in that long-term relationship, it doesn't end. You ongoingly, continually create and cultivate.